Let's start. So thank you very much everyone for joining us today. I'm the Barot, founder and CEO of ContextQA, and we are QA Agentic AI platform that helps organization for their AI transformation, quality transformation, and digital transformation. So just quick background about myself. I came to US 15 years ago to study undergrad, and I found the possibility over here that you keep trying and you get achieving, right? So it is surely a land of opportunities. So I came here, was an engineer, became a DevOps engineer, and I see the possibility that, hey, AI is moving, or at that time machine learning is moving so fast, there must be a system that supports overall software development processes. So I started my first company in a healthcare software in 2013, 2014. I made a lot of mistakes, learned from that, and started my another company in 2023. So I started as a solo founder, and now we are 60 people. We are a funded company, we are a growth stage company, and we started as just a automation company, because at that time people just only using Selenium and Cypress kind of frameworks, and there was struggle. It wasn't the AI first approach at that time in 2023 when I started. But the main problem that I seen as a DevOps is the business outcome problem, because everyone was like doing testing or development, but no one was thinking about what about the business outcome. So what today we are going to discuss is about like how AI powered automation is changing the future for all the organizations. As I mentioned, we are the first builder mindset, and I was that mindset. So I'm coming from the DevOps background, where I see the context was missing into the entire processes. So this product that we built with a different mindset. But today I'm going to talk more about the general topics, not only about the product, but we will see the both of those approaches over here. So in this today's session, right, we are going to talk about agentic landscape, how to decide, because there are many ways to build in-house, build by someone else, learn from someone else too, or there are lots of open source framework on the AI side as well as the automation side. So which one to pick? There are lots of agent builders platform as well. So you would use those agent builders or build your own agents. We're going to talk about that. And what is the return? Right? Because everyone going to talk to you about at the end of the day, what is the return on investment? Are you saving the cost? Are you increasing the efficiency, the productivity? So we are going to talk about those things. Based on my experience, because I heavily spent time on DevOps, kept Netflix, Capital One, those kind of companies as a role model, built and implemented a Hygia kind of platform within the organization. Developer productivity, developer experience, and the business outcomes were the core metrics, and that's what the Google-based metrics like Dora metrics that supports those things. So we are going to talk about those as well in today's session. So everyone knows that, so I will not go and emphasize on this topic, but yes, script era is hitting a wall, means yes, there are scripts, people are writing scripts, but the frameworks, right, that we used to write and maintain as it is or whatever it was, right, it's hitting the wall, because there is every time there is a change and AI needs to write the code, or you need to constantly update those code. But the point here is still the missing. It wasn't even past. It wasn't about the changing the code, it was about the maintaining the context, like what has been changed, what needs to be updated, what needs to be tested. So that frequency is increasing, right? And that's what we discuss in the today's panel discussion, that velocity of those changes are so faster. So how we are maintaining those scripts which we are adding towards the automation testing, leveraging AI or without AI. So there is a huge maintenance when we talk about the script-based test automation and framework, right? And we all gone through these 4 stages, and this is the 4th stage that we are seeing it. So we had a manual testing, which is still there and which is still valid, but based on the context, right? It is a first time or it is a repeated manual testing. Another is a script-based automation that runs the Selenium, Cypress, now Playwright is leading the way. Third one came as AI assisted. It's more about like Copilot and those kind of platforms. And now we are going to talk about the agentic, because testing is a big term which we're going to look into more detail. So that it's not about the automation or it's not about the test generation. All aspects of the testing needs to work in the right alignment, and that's where the agentic AI will play the role. So this is the current evaluation of AI automation platform is going through. So now everyone is building agents, or everyone is trying to leverage agents. But what is an agent, right? Actually is, right? So agent can reason, means it has a LLM, and obviously there could be a layers between LLM and your agent, right? That does the processing. But it can interpret your intent, it can plan, it can figure it out what is right and wrong based on the criteria that you give, right? So AI-based reasoning, that is the first approach. The second one is context and the memory. Does it has a context to your application, the business domain, your team, and different aspects that helps them to make a decision? Because agent without context and memory is a dumb, right? Because it can do that siloed work, but it cannot understand the full context of your business. And that's what the problem happened in QA in the first place, where QA person wasn't kept in the loop in all the different aspects. So that was lacking the context. And if we don't allow that context to the agent, then it will make the same mistakes over here. The another aspect here is the tooling, right? So does your AI agent has a context and the integration with all the tooling that you are using, whether it's Jira, the GitHub, or any tool like Slack or Teams or Azure DevOps. It could be anything. Because again, these tools are the place from where your AI agent will get the context. So does this tool has the right context or the integration with the tool? And at the same time the right access like MCP, so that it's very natural for you to talk through the tool as well as all the integrations over here. And the last part here is the autonomy loop, right? Once you figured out your processes, whether it could be skills within Claude or orchestration file, but once you figured out this is the process, once you get the requirement, it needs to go to this particular flow, then once it is done, it needs to be automated, it needs to be done. So does this agent has that autonomy loop or not? So at that point, you are becoming hands-free or with minimum human in the loop over here to get the maximum outcome from the agents and AI altogether. So these are the a few points that we will be talking about around the agents. So now coming towards the very specific QA as a problem statement, right? Because everyone talks about quality, but quality is a single word, but it has 20 different functions within quality, like test generation, test organization, test data on the creation side. When you automate and execute, then test automation, visual regression, self-healing, those are the topics comes in. When you analyze the run results, then also the impact analysis, coverage gaps, root cause analysis, those comes in. And then when you are finding that this is a defect versus feature, then also defect triaging, bug reproduction, bug reporting. And I just mentioned 12 of those, but there are a few more still left out. So when we are talking about leveraging AI into the quality, are we thinking holistic view of the quality, or are we only talking about the automation or the root cause analysis or very specific points over here? So today I will be talking about a specialized AI agent first, right? That could be for test generation, test organization, test data, test automation, visual regression, or self-healing. So test generation, So it takes your specs into the account, and specs comes from the like either Jira or any documentation or Power transcript. It can be in any form, and it comes with that specs. But again, in between test generation and specs provided, there are many steps goes into it. Means your specs are right or not. Is it complete or not? Is your application testable or not? Does it has the right information to go out and test it or not? At the same time, when it generates the test cases, it also needs to go through the certain more processes. Is it a duplicate? How much similar to the previous test case? And we already seen everyone starts login as a testing and creates a 20 test cases on the login itself. So, and then another person can also generate the 20 test cases and another person. So how would you identify that? Are you generating the right amount of test cases or not, and the quality of the test cases as well? So that's where the test generation based agent will look like. Another would be like test organizing, right? Based on the features, based on the priority, based on the severity of those test cases. You need to organize test cases so that when it comes to the execution, you are picking the right test based on the impact. You are testing them in a right way. Same for the test data. I will skip the test automation and visual regression, come to the self-healing over here, because you will not have time to maintain the test again and again, because you are constantly building new features, but also you need to make sure your tests are valid. And that is the biggest problem we are seeing into the AI generated code. AI can write the code, AI generates the code, AI writes the test cases, and all are passes. But then it is not retiring the old test cases for you. And that is also a debt that we are building all together. So today I'm going to show you the like practical approach also, right? Like how we are solving that problem. And then obviously would love to learn more about like what are we missing, so that we can deliver that quality to those organizations. Okay. So, very high level, the product that I started to build ContextQA before 4 years, and we are serving the customers like Japan Airlines, Electronics Arts, and other big enterprise companies. As I mentioned, this application is being used by those enterprises. But the main hypothesis here is we should stop using Jira as a source of truth, or specifically into the testing place, because that is only the section of your requirements, right? That is a starting point. It is not the complete picture. And what we have done so far, right, in a testing is we got the requirements, we generated the test cases and just take that as a boilerplate, that statements, and just kept testing the product continuously. But when I was a DevOps engineer in those previous companies, I identified the gaps. Like as a testers, we don't look at the code basis, and we don't understand, or we don't look at the architecture of the test case, the code basis, different repositories. So we are completely lacking the context coming from the code basis. And this is very important pieces, because sometimes requirements do not mention those business logics, but code has implemented. It could be right or wrong, but there is a difference between the specs and the actual application is being built. Another gap I identified is the production usage and the actual spec. Means spec is written in a certain way, but your real customers are using that application in a totally different way. And the feedback loop between the product team and the QA team is too wide, like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or maybe 12 months, where you do not have that visibility into what your customers are facing those issues for. So those are the gaps we identified, and we built the AI agent to first source those information. So to do that, right, we build the integrations with all these tools. Now, integration is not the new word, but the point here is constantly getting this information and learning about the system autonomously by keeping the human in the loop. at certain level, right? Wherever the AI has a question. So let's say we are taking Jira requirements as an input, or GitHub pull requests as an input, or Figma or production logs. And I want to show you that what is the context that we are building. So let's say someone wrote a code and we have an AI agent that constantly checks around here. So this AI agent automatically finds the impact of your taste, impact of your change towards all the tastes, and it will tell you that which are the tastes you need to run with the confidence score. So it will provide you like what is the confidence score and why. And this is the biggest unlock AI is helping us out. Here is not only just automating, but what to taste and why to taste. And this is the first approach, right? One source is a GitHub, the change is the code bases, and we are testing against our existing testing repositories. And I'm not talking about this as a unit testing, it is more about the end-to-end testing, how it needs to be tested out. And it will tell you that, hey, these are the tests you should test it out, but also there are gaps into your current testing processes, so you can leverage these and increase your coverage as well. Another approach here is from your production usage. So your customers are using like post hoc, clarity, amplitude, that kind of tools to get the insights of how real users are using it. But how often you take that data and put it into your testing cycles? So these are the another data that tells that, hey, as a part of the process, we analyzed 19 sessions for this particular application in the path, and it compared again the existing test repository of 366 test cases, identified gaps, and it consolidated into the 19 end-to-end test cases. And now here it will provide you the like test written in a step-by-step instruction way, as well as what is missing it out and why it is. So it will provide the full reasoning behind it as well. Now why it is important, right? One, because you are constantly getting the feedbacks from your real customers' user journeys, incorporating into your testing practices. But when it generates the test cases like this one, it is all plain English. So again, it's a human in the loop. It is not just go and automate for you. It will allow you to think through and decide is it the right thing or not based on the reasoning that you provided or not. So it is doing like 80% of your work that you do not need to go and watch 10 or 100 sessions. It will consolidate into the like 10 test scenarios. Out of those 10, it will also tell you that, hey, these are the test scenarios and the reasoning behind like why it is thinking that way. So it is reducing your 80% of the work here. Now your job is look at here. If you like anything to change, it's all plain English. You will go ahead and change it and run it. It's all automation ready at this point. So going back to the another scenario over here, that in any of this application, right? Let's say you have a Jira as an application. So I'm just creating a one user story right over here. And asking this AI agent over here to help me to generate the test cases. Okay. So because it is integrated with Jira, so again it will start understanding your user stories or test cases. Now this will come towards the point that we were discussing earlier, right? How important is the prompt engineering is. But we will tackle this question in a few seconds. So now this test cases is ready with the automation, and now you can go ahead and execute it. So what does it mean here is you have a user story or the existing test cases, but now AI agent can help you to automate those test cases by understanding your plain English based test scenarios or the user stories, generate the test cases from there and automating in the real time. So as I mentioned, every process, it's not like 100% you just click the button and done, but these are the AI agents help you to reduce your work, 80% of the work, and bring that efficiency. But not only about that 80% work is reduced, but also brings that visibility into why you need to take certain steps. And once AI takes that steps, you have that visibility that what AI is helping you out with by collecting all the evidences for you. So while this execution is going on, what I was talking about here is the reasoning behind it, right? So AI is performing the actions, but you also have the reasoning and the context of your application, which is constantly being built. Now, why this is important being agentic AI? Because let's say you are leveraging AI to generate the test scenarios. So in ContextQA, right, we allow people to like upload the requirements and then obviously generate all these different kinds of test cases. But this is only the first step. Once you generate the test cases, you need to make sure those are the like properly designed test cases that fits into your entire organization's need. So it does the parameterization and it does the syncing, right? Reutilize your prerequisites and all existing test cases so it doesn't duplicate, but also follows the object-oriented methodologies over here. But most important question here is AI will not take your statements blindly. AI will ask you the question that, hey, your spec do not have this information. Can you provide me more information? When you don't provide the information, it will parameterize everything for you as a best practices, as well as it will not hallucinate for the random information in this case. Now, once it is there, it will ask you to provide the data, and it will also provide you the reasoning why it is asking you for those certain questions and what are the coverage specific gaps it found. And once it is there, it will, once you approve it over here, so let's say I'm approving here and I start running these test cases, then it will be providing me the gaps between current executions and my gaps over here. So let's say I'm executing my test cases over here, here, and I do have a spec. So it is finding the gaps between my specs and the real applications over here. Gaps between specs on and my GitHub code base also here, or gaps between my specs and the real customers are using here. So that feedback loop is very important, and that is the entire system is the agentic AI. Following so far? Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, question. So how do you map your code to the requirements?
Yes. So when we, and again, when we start engaging with the customer can be at the different stages of their development phases. They can be a like greenfield project, very beginning they involve us, or it would be a brownfield. So first is training the system with your existing application as well as your existing requirements, right? And that the good way to start is uploading your existing GitHub repository of Selenium, Playwright test cases if they are still current, or manual test cases. So that gives the baseline to the system. What happens once you provide it, the system starts working in the background and starts mapping your entire application with the different modules that you have. So if you are seeing here, it will divide your testing based on the requirements you might have given or existing test cases you given, script or manually, doesn't matter. But it will start mapping those test cases, and this AI agent will go to your actual application and validate those parts if application is live. And it will start mapping this out based on that, and then it will correlate this with the code bases that you have. So in the background, it builds the full knowledge graph of your application, and it's a multi-layer knowledge graph. So the requirements are mapped with the test cases and also your code bases, so that whenever something changes, like let's say you change the code tomorrow, it will tell you that, hey, which are the requirements are associated with it and what are the tests are impacted, because you want to know that is it a big impact or not, or is it a compliance related change or not, so that you can make a decision based to decide the priority and triaging those changes.
Yeah, but specifically to the mapping of requirements to code, is it assuming that the code was written with a spec-driven method? Otherwise, how would you map the code to requirements.
Yes, so there is an intermediate step, like the test cases are the bridge between the code and the spec. You are not directly correlating specs and code, but based on the specs or based on the code, you are generating the test cases, identifying the gaps, whether on the spec side or the code side, and then using that as a bridge. And then obviously you will see that, okay, these are the tests generated which are not matching my specs or my code, and it will identify the gaps there. So yeah, because there is no way for us, right? Because you might have 10 different repositories, right? Or third-party systems. So it will be very hard to just only map your code base and specs directly. So the testing layer.
So you need the testing layer as a bridge.
Yes, as a bridge.
Okay. And does it include both unit testing and integration testing?
Integration testing or general end-to-end testing, not a unit testing.
Not unit testing. Okay.
Not unit testing. Okay, so coming back to the point, right? So these are the like a different agents that works, right? And obviously, like once it works, it will also crawl your application and start generating the test cases based on what it learned and identify the gaps. So we automated this particular flow, but it will identify the different areas which are not covered in your testing practice and start generating the test cases. And as I mentioned, it generates the test cases as it explores more. It will apply the best practices of parameterization and creating the test data for you on the fly. And at the same time, it is all plain English, so you can just come back and edit it if you need to. And if you see here, it's all in the review status. So that's where the human in the loop is very, very important. So one of the question was asked earlier, like if AI is going to do X and Y, what the human testers are going to do, right? And that's where the most important point here, like they have the domain knowledge, business knowledge, or technological knowledge. AI can make it efficient, but again, you need to put the harness around it. You need to provide the guidance. It could be through the knowledge base or the skills that you can provide, and it can do the reinforcement learning as you are automating or using more and more. But that's where the human role will come, not towards like writing those frameworks and tests, like those code, but also understanding like how AI is working and how to tweak it to scale those testing effort. And once you test this, scale this effort, you are running these tests at scale and getting these detailed results the way you want. You are running in parallel across different browsers and devices, but also you will be like getting this data to compare against. What do I mean by this data? Now all these tests are running at scale across different browsers and devices. Now this is connected through your MCP. And before just this session, I just asked like, hey, go ahead and provide me the data about the failure reports and what are the common defects. Because now this system is connected with your Claude via MCP or Cursor via MCP, it is providing you the like a full-fledged report that you would be looking for over here. So this is the full execution report, right? What are the scripts worked, not worked, and then what are the common defects that we are seeing it here. So this is level of agentic AI that we are looking for, right? Means you get the context, automate, design, increase the coverage, finding the gaps, and then put the report in such a way that your leaders understand, but also your developer understands or your AI agent understands, so they can fix the issues faster. Okay. So going back to the presentation, any question in between? Okay. So we already took a look at, right, how agents plug into your stack through your MCP platform, right? It can integrate with your Jira, GitHub, CI/CD pipeline, Slack, or if you are using package applications like Salesforce, or any like SAP kind of system, it integrates there as well. We already seen this particular flow, so we'll skip it. So there are like a different types of tools also in the market, right? So there are AI augmented frameworks are available. Everyone is using like Playwright MCP or each like different versions of the MCP or some tools, right, started adding the AI on top of it. Then there are like AI native platforms like ContextQA and Mabel, because we started with the AI itself and we see the power of AI. So everything what we do, AI is a very critical part of this because it is providing a lot of value to our customers. Then there are like agentic explorers, right? So that's where the like open source framework like browser use or Stagehead, where you can use those repositories to just spin up the browser, where you do not need to automate by yourself and they provide the infrastructure to you. And there are point tools, right, like ApplyTools or Langsmith or Braintrust or Arise AI. So these are the tools are there, but they solve very specific problem, right? Like for example, Langsmith is for the observability, or Arise AI that provides the like guardrails and evals to you, but it doesn't solve the end-to-end testing problems of your application in this case. So again, there are like lots of ways to solve the problem, right? Building your own agent, building your own skills, building your own infrastructure, building your own team, right? And having the right resources to get things done. Or you use the tools, right? That helps you to get to that finish line and help you to deliver that business outcome that you are looking for in this case. Again, we are seeing a lot of trend in the market, right? Build versus buy or extend, right? And there is no right answer to, or there is not one answer, I would say, in this case, because each team is different. They have a different skill team members, right? They have a different budget. They have a different urgency. So is your goal is to just prove that AI can help you or not? Or is your goal is to derive the business outcome? Reduce the top line or improve the productivity or improve the efficiency? It depends on company to company. And based on that, you need to decide, would you build in-house or buy? Because if you are solving the bigger problem, right, you need to see that how this entire solution fits into the context, and you save the time and beat the competition if you leverage the right tool at the right time rather than building by yourselves. So again, right, no one has a doubt over here, right? Can AI do this or can AI do that or not? AI can do anything as long as we have the intent to do it. But the point here is, do we have a time, budget, how, and urgency, the same points that I mentioned, because that defines like which approach we will take it to get things done. And is our goal is to solve the business problem or the technical problem? Because that is also the confusion that other people get into, that rather than solving the business problem, we get stuck into the solving the technical problem by ourselves, and that like blocks us from thinking very holistically about the overall business problems. So yeah, these are the like points I mentioned, but most important piece over here is in the center, context graph. And if you are following LinkedIn, you must have read lot of articles around it. White papers are coming around context graph. And context graph is the like day-to-day, all the data or activity, like your conversation with your team members, all the emails that you are sending back and forth, Slack messages, all are context that you are building towards a feature or why you are making certain decision. So that context is very, very important in entire life cycle of the AI and the tooling that we are building. So if anywhere the context is missed out, it can affect the entire life cycle of the QA. Currently, we rely on the human communication and we provide the right context to the right team member and then explain again and again. But if we are going towards the agentic AI, context becomes the most important piece over here. So yeah, these are the like a quick overview of the tool that we gave. And just last point I want to mention here, right, that on the agent side also, right, you need to make sure that whatever the agents you are building also are tested well, because building agent is not not a hard part right now. Like all the tools are providing those AI agents, right? But are you testing those AI agents or not? So for example, like this is the voice agent that I'm going to show about. Now it only passed 11% of those test cases. But the question here is it being tested against all these evals, right? This intent recognition, entity extraction, task completion or not? So this is a very important piece, and I'm just telling because I've seen that in the past, like we were the testers, or in my company there were testers. They were testing entire application, but they weren't testing their own code, which they were writing in Selenium, Playwright, or Cypress. Their code was not tested against the best practices. Their code was not tested against like SonarQube code quality. That test was not tested against all the object-oriented concepts, and that code was not deployed consistently into like CI/CD pipeline, or they haven't wrote their own unit tests for their own code. We are seeing the same problem happening with the AI agents as well. Like we are building AI agents left, right, and center, but we are not testing our own agents regarding the intent, the completion, the roundness, the hallucination, and if we are doing it, still it's very limited. We are not testing comprehensively. So that's where it will add a value, that if we test thoroughly, even the agents that we are building for our internal usage, so that we can rely on the outcome that these agents provides. Basically. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, and happy to answer any question you have.
How do you maintain the context? Because it comes from a lot of sources. Some of it might be noise, some might be incorrect. How do you maintain that? How do you?
Yes, so one thing is, right, obviously human-in-the-loop is very, very important, right? So you take the context, you do the activity, but you do not just productionize everything, or you cannot automate anything. I'm just talking in terms of the testing perspective, right? So let's say I got the context, I generated the test cases, but then I cannot automate it if I do not have the right context there. And that's where the threshold is, like how confident we feel. And confidence comes from your existing knowledge and the validation layer on the other side. So you test it, right? Like you get that new requirement, you just validate against the source, and source is verified or not. So let's say someone wrote the code to change the functionality, but it doesn't has a reference to any requirements, and we generate the code, we generate the test cases from that code, but there is no correlation, then it is a new requirement. So that's where the human-in-the-loop needs to be brought in to identify and approve that, okay, this is the new requirement coming, there is an association, or they are making exception this time, and including this as a context into your overall knowledge graph, basically.
So the human-in-the-loop goes to the requirements and approves the requirements, that sort of thing? Yeah,
so they approve requirements or the test generated without requirements as well, but they need to provide the reasoning behind it. Yeah. So that whenever that code changes, then we brought the same context back that, hey, someone approved it for this particular reason, now this is changing, do we still want to do it or not? Mm-hmm.
How would you handle like a new product that doesn't have any test cases? Can you handle that scenario?
Yes, so either you have a spec, like a spec document, you can just go ahead and upload it, and that is the starting point, or you can connect with your code repository. If even it's in the development environment, you just connect and it will start getting that context as a beginning. Once it is there, and it just needs the baseline, this tool has its own exploratory testing agent as well. So once you provide the access and the access to that live application, it will go and explore and generate the test cases from that and build the context around that.
Where is this context stored and the stories? Are you versioning it somewhere? Is there a way to revert back in case? Because why I'm asking that is, let's say if I introduce something that messed up the existing context, and especially when you're talking about feedback loops and all, so how are you maintaining that standard over there?
Yeah, so everything is a version, right? Because we live in the system that needs to be versioned. right? For two reasons. One is for the auditory purposes, right? And the second is to not step on each other, because like for example, I generated the test cases based on the new requirement, but the current test running is in the production are based on the previous requirement. So that also requires versioning, right? So yes, everything is versioning, right? And everything goes through the review process. Again, this is more configuration based because smaller teams move faster and they just go. Versus the larger teams wants more review process. So it's about the how you are configuring for that particular system. But yes, it is this knowledge graph is something it gets version at each level, and you can set to the previous snapshot basically.
Do you allow users to update the context? Is there like some kind of knowledge base somewhere that they can go and manually edit it?
Definitely. So like I will show you like two types of knowledge base, right? Because not each company is same, right? So you need to provide some context to that. That could be a compliance context, your testing strategy context, or the guideline of yours. So you can provide the context over here. Everything is again in a plain English over here. It can connect to your Confluence or that kind of documentation as well, or you can provide here. So like I'm just going to show you that Salesforce specific, right? Where it is provided all this security specific assessment, right? Over here, and what are the attacks you want to perform, not to perform, API related use cases. So yes, you can provide the context like as a knowledge base, and then you can leverage it during the execution time as a whole knowledge base or very specific knowledge base.